Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Kausha, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled AND, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. Our first coincidence miracle today is something that happened while I was at the beaches in Connecticut, passing out cards, telling people about our books. And by the way, if you Google the title of our show, our radio show podcast, if you Google the title, you'll also get our websites and all wealth of information. So you know from listening to our podcast that the title of our book is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. And you write the 50,000 out with numbers, 50000. So it's Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. If you Google that, you'll get a wealth of free information. It's all free. My quest in life is when I drop dead, hopefully I'll get to heaven and people will still be able to use the website forever. So that's what I'm trying to do, is leave behind something that'll help people forever. So please Google the title of the book, Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles, and please tell everybody you can about our podcast, etc. So what happened, one of the days I was at the beach passing out cards, telling people about our books and what I just said to you. I was greatly blessed because I met 3 blankets of people. They're average 3 or 4 people per blanket. Some blankets have 8 people with many blankets, large families, but typically 4 to 6 people in groups. And so when I'm passing out cards, I can say it once and I'm speaking to 4 or 6 people. And I was so delighted because there were 3 blankets, 3 groups of people. When they heard the story of our podcast, etc., and what the book is all about and miracles that happened in my life, they chimed in and said to me things about angel numbers. They started telling me, oh, those are like angel numbers. So there's a lot of people out there who are using the terminology angel numbers because some people have written books called Angel Numbers, and they explain in their books that often people will see repetitive numbers. You keep seeing the number 222. I've met people that tell me they've been seeing the number 222 for like 5 years. And some people tell me they've been seeing the number 111 for like 15 years. So when that happens to you, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, people start calling it their favorite number or a sign, et cetera, et cetera. They become signs. Imagine if every time you make a good decision, you see 3 ones before you do it. And every time you make a bad decision, you see 3 fours before you do it. if that happens to you for 15 years, you're going to start living by that sign, and that's what a lot of people do. And they've come to learn that it's God sending them clues. Now, you got to be careful about that because it could be the devil sending you clues. And that's why I wrote a book that explains it, and I got a free website where you can listen to it all for free. And the Bible tells you how to be careful. So if you read the Bible, that'll tell you how to be careful. But once you know that God is talking to you, you really have a wonderful, exciting, beautiful life. Okay, so I wanted to just let you know that there's a lot of people talking about angel numbers, and that's what they mean. These people were inspired by God to call it angel numbers, and I call them coincidence miracles, and I call it God's Morse code system. Morse code is sending ... And in my life for 50 years, God sends me clues. Certain numbers mean certain things to me. All right, so you'll get all the clarification you need if you just Google the title of our book, Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles, or email me and I'll give you our website, and you can get a lot of information for free, okay? The next thing I'd like to tell you about this day at the beach, in addition to people talking about angel numbers, is the last 3 blankets I visited at the end of the day after about 5 hours of passing out cards and talking to people about our books and our podcast website. The last 3 people, again, Jesus gives me a tremendous gift when he does this. He tells me to do 3 more. As I'm ready to go home because I'm tired or exhausted or whatever, I might be just hungry or thirsty. But whatever my reason, I usually get inspired, do 1 more blanket, Tony, or do 3 more blankets. And when I obey that inspiration and I do it, I'm always blessed. And on this particular day, I was as well. So I was inspired to do 3 more blankets. And I went to the next blanket, and lo and behold, there was a lady and her husband and a child, maybe a 10-year-old child. And they told me that the wife had just finished reading the Bible like an hour before I arrived. She just finished reading, not the Bible, but my book, I'm sorry. She just finished reading my book, and she just gave the book to her husband to start reading because she'd been telling him about it, and he wants to read it now. So that's one gift I got by Jesus saying, do 3 more blankets. Now Jesus gave me a great gift because I just met somebody who read the book, and they're passing it on to their husband, and I couldn't ask for a better gift to know that people are getting something out of my book. So every time I hear somebody reads my book, I know if they read my book, they're going to wind up talking to God all day long. I know that's what's going to happen because that's what the book tries to convince people they can do. In the first hour, after 1 hour reading my book, you'll be convinced you can talk to God every day, and that's what happens to people. Some people just read the first hour, they don't finish the rest of the book. I don't suggest that because the rest of the book will make it even more convincing, but I'll leave that up to you and God. If you're talking to God after the first hour and he says don't read the rest of the book, well then do whatever he tells you. So that was the first of the last 3. The next group I talked to was some college people because they were on a blanket next to this couple and they heard what we were talking about it. And a couple of them, the college people, came over to me and said, could you come and tell us about, we overheard you, can you come and tell us? So I went to that group, and there were like 5 college people there. So, when I'm talking, I'm saying it once, I'm covering 5 people. And the college people were absolutely blown away and really excited about when I told them that the book of Luke, chapter 10, in the book of Luke, says, God says that there's only one thing necessary. And I really hammered the point. I convinced them God said only one thing is necessary. You can stop doing everything else you're doing. Don't do anything else anymore. Just do that one thing only, and you'll have a wonderful life. And they wanted to know, obviously, what's the one thing. So I told them, you read the book in the Bible, chapter 10 in the book of Luke. Just read chapter 10. And it says, if you keep talking to God, God will keep talking to you, and you'll be doing the one thing necessary. Now, can you just think about that a little bit? What could be more important than you and God talking about what you're going to do, what you want to do, what you'd like to do, what your questions are, what your concerns are? What could be better than you talking directly to God about all of those things? and what house to buy, what car to buy, what job to take, etc., etc. How could you possibly do anything better than talk to God about those kinds of things and what your concerns are, okay? All right, so that was the second blanket. The third blanket was a Jewish wife and a Christian husband, and they just kept asking question after question. They kept sounding like they were having debates for years about certain things, and they kept asking a lot of questions. And thank God, God has taken 50 years to teach me. I mean, he's had me read the Bible several times. He's had me teach Sunday school for 45 years. He's had me listen to preaching and homilies of thousands of priests and preachers over the last 50 years. So I've heard a lot of answers to a lot of questions about religion. So when I get questions, I've got answers I can offer. Sometimes I give people 3 possible answers. So because this was a Jewish wife and a Christian husband, and they were married for more than 12 years, they asked a lot of questions. And they told me at the end that they were delighted that I came by today because they got some answers to things that they have never gotten before. Now, I don't know if that's because they didn't ask the right people or they didn't ask people. I don't know. But I gave them the answers that I bumped into in 50 years. I got my answers by talking to God and by reading books and reading the Bible, reading the catechism. That's where I got mine from. And teaching Sunday school for 45 years, I got to look up a lot of things. So it was a wonderful day for me because the last 3 blankets I talked to confirmed positively that I was supposed to be there, because these 3 blankets, they got what they needed. The college group, they got their answer, Luke chapter 10. There's only one thing. That's all they needed to know. The last group about the husband and the wife, they were having debates about things for 10 years. Let's see, the person on the other of the last 3 people was a woman who just finished reading my book an hour earlier and just gave it to her husband. So I was delighted that I got confirmed that I did need to talk to those last 3, because God showed me again that he was using the book and he was using the training he gave me. He's trained me for 50 years. I may not be the best student and I may not have gotten a perfect score, but he's been teaching me for 50 years. So now when I go out like this and talk to people, I do have some helpful answers. I'm not boasting, but I just had a terrific day, because can you imagine getting trained for 50 years and nobody asks you any questions? That would be a disaster. So I'm very happy to tell you I had a great day. Our next coincidence miracle is another one I'm so delighted to be able to tell you. This was the second time in a 2-week period where I was talking to a mom and a daughter in the 17, 18-year-old age bracket for the daughters. Last time was an 18-year-old girl. This time was a 17-year-old girl. And both times was a mom and their daughter. And this time the same thing happened. While I was talking to the mother, the 17-year-old started asking some questions, and the discussion moved to her. I was talking to the 17-year-old more than the mother, and the mother would interject and affirm and confirm and agree with things that I was saying, or the mother would say, well, that's like I told you before. So the mother was reinforcing what I was saying. So it was delightful that what I was saying, the mother was agreeing with, and the 17-year-old was asking more questions. So it was a fantastic opportunity for me, again, to see that God had sent me there that day. But most importantly, that now a 17-year-old, the last time was an 18-year-old, is now falling in love with God and is going to have discussions with God on a regular basis. And she wants to get the book. She asked how she could get the book. She's got her own budget. She's going to buy a book. She's going to listen to our podcast. God bless you all. I'll talk to you next week.